Hello, beautiful people. Today we're talking about something so personal, so powerful, it can change the entire direction of a life. We're talking about testimonies. What is a testimony, you ask? Well, it's simply your story. That moment, that experience, that truth you know deep down in your bones. It's the story of where you were, what happened, and where you are now. These aren't just tales we tell. They are the roadmaps of our souls. They show us that no matter how lost we feel, there is a way back to the light, back to ourselves, back to a higher power.
Your story matters. Let's listen.
A very warm welcome to all of you joining us from across the globe. Whether you're watching from a bustling city or a quiet corner of the world, we are so glad you're here with us at Pastor K. Wadora Ministries. We believe that God has a powerful word for you today, a word of hope and transformation. If you haven't already, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel and join our growing online family. You won't want to miss the incredible stories of life change that we share here. Today, we want to share one such story. Let's talk about Sarah. For years, she lived her life in the spotlight, a life many would dream of. She was a musician, a voice that captivated thousands. The stage was her home, the roar of the crowd her constant companion. She traveled from city to city, a whirlwind of airports, tour buses, and sold-out venues. One night she'd be playing in smoky, intimate bars, where the audience was so close she could see the emotion in their eyes. The next, she'd be commanding the stage of grand concert halls, a lone figure under the lights, pouring her heart out to a sea of faces. The energy was electric, intoxicating. On the outside, she had it all: the fame, the adoration, the success. But inside, a hollow emptiness had taken root and was growing larger with every show. The applause, as thunderous as it was, faded the moment she walked off stage, leaving behind a silence that was deafening. The glamour seen in magazines was a stark contrast to the reality of her life. A lonely hotel room, another meal eaten alone, fleeting connections that never went beyond the surface. Life felt like a frantic treadmill, running, from one city to the next, one performance to the next, but she was never truly getting anywhere. Each city blurred into the last, a repetitive cycle of sound checks, performances, and packing bags. She was surrounded by people, yet felt utterly alone. One night, it all came to a head. She was in a sterile hotel room in a city whose name she could barely remember, thousands of miles from anything that felt like home. The city lights blinked outside her window, indifferent to the storm raging inside her. The echoes of the crowd were gone, replaced by a profound sense of despair. She had chased the dream, caught it, and found it was made of smoke. What was the point of it all if this was the prize? In that moment of complete desperation, her eyes fell on a book on the nightstand, a Gideon's Bible. With nothing left to lose, she opened it. Her fingers traced the thin pages, and her eyes fell on a passage from the book of Matthew. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." The words seemed to lift off the page and speak directly to her soul. Weary? Burdened? That was the very definition of her existence. As she read on, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Something broke within her. Tears streamed down her face, not tears of sadness, but of an overwhelming, unexpected relief. It was as if a dam she didn't even know she built had finally burst. In the stillness of that anonymous room, she felt a presence, gentle, loving, and profoundly peaceful. It wasn't an audible voice, but a deep, unshakable knowing in her spirit. She was seen. Not as a performer, not as a name on a marquee, but as Sarah. She was known, and she was loved. It wasn't an instant magical fix. The tour didn't stop. The challenges didn't vanish overnight. But in her heart, everything began to shift. That encounter became her secret strength. The frantic energy was replaced by a quiet confidence. The emptiness began to fill with a sense of purpose that had nothing to do with ticket sales or chart positions. She had found an anchor for her soul, something solid and unshakable in the turbulent waters of her life. Her music started to change too. The lyrics became more honest, the melodies infused with a hope she hadn't known before. Her perspective on performance was completely transformed. As she puts it now,
I used to get on stage needing something from the audience. Their applause, their approval, it was like a drug. I was singing them, trying to fill a void inside me. But after that night, I realized the void was already filled. Now, when I sing, it's not about taking, it's about giving. I sing from a place of gratitude, for Him. The music isn't mine anymore. It's a gift I get to share, a testament to the grace that found me when I was lost.
Sarah's story is a beautiful reminder that no one is beyond the reach of God's love. No matter how far you've run or how lost you feel, He is waiting. Jesus is Lord. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, please. A very warm welcome to all our viewers from around the world, joining us here at Pastor K. Wadora Ministries. We are so glad you're with us today. If you believe in the power of testimony to change lives, we encourage you to subscribe and join our growing family. Today, we share the story of David, a man who had to lose everything to find everything he truly needed. David prided himself on being in control. His life was a masterfully engineered structure, built on the solid bedrock of logic, spreadsheets, and meticulously crafted 10-year plans. He was the architect of his own success, and his blueprints left no room for chance, and certainly no room for faith. To him, faith was a nice idea, a comforting story for those who couldn't manage their own lives, but it just wasn't practical. It was an intangible variable in a world he was determined to command. He saw prayer as a passive wish, while he was a man of action, believing only in his own strength and intellect to shape his destiny. Then, the unthinkable happened. The market shifted, the company restructured, and in 6 short months, his world crumbled. The career he had poured his identity into was gone, reduced to a cardboard box of personal effects. He was downsized. The fortress he had so carefully constructed began to show its cracks. A routine checkup led to a shocking diagnosis, a word from a doctor that shattered his illusion of invincibility. Suddenly, the 10-year plans were replaced by treatment schedules and a tidal wave of medical bills. The man who managed millions was now staring at invoices he couldn't pay. The fortress was being dismantled, brick by painful brick. One evening, sitting in his car as dusk bled the color from the sky, the weight of it all became unbearable. The silence was deafening, filled only by the frantic racing of his own thoughts, a chaotic loop of failures and fears. Every plan had failed, every safety net had torn. He was in freefall. He was utterly overwhelmed. He gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white, and leaned his forehead against it. In a voice raw with defeat, he whispered, "I can't do this anymore."
God, if you are real, I need help.
And in that moment of absolute brokenness, a different kind of thought emerged, not from his logical mind, but from a deeper place in his soul. It was a final, desperate plea to a power he had always dismissed. It wasn't a negotiation or a demand. It was a complete and total surrender. And in that surrender, something shifted. A profound, unexplainable peace washed over him. It didn't solve his problems, but it calmed the storm inside him. His circumstances didn't change overnight, but his perspective did. He began to see God, not in the grand spectacle he once might have expected, but in the quiet, everyday acts of kindness. It was in the neighbor who brought over a hot meal, no questions asked. It was in the unexpected phone call from an old friend. It was in the genuine smiles and shared laughter of a small church group that welcomed him without judgment. He began to see God not in spectacle, but in kindness, in meals, smiles, laughter. Looking back, David often says,
I lost my career, my savings, and my pride. I lost everything I had built my identity on. But in losing it all, I found Christ. And in finding Him, I found myself. I am richer than I ever was, because my peace is no longer tied to my performance, and my hope is no longer tied to my plans.
David's story is a powerful reminder for all of us. True strength is in control. It's found in the courage to let go and be held by a love that never fails. We hope this story has touched your heart. Jesus is Lord. Comments, please. A very warm welcome to our global family, tuning in from every corner of the world to Pastor K. Wadora Ministries. We are so blessed to have you with us today. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel so you never miss a message of hope. Today, we're sharing a powerful testimony about a woman named Maria. A story that reminds us that even in our darkest hour, we are never truly alone.
For Maria, life had become a relentless, exhausting cycle. By day, she navigated the clatter of dishes and demanding customers at a diner, forcing a smile while her feet ached. By night, she moved like a ghost through empty office buildings, the scent of cleaning solution clinging to her clothes. She was a single mother, and every ounce of her energy was poured into this demanding rhythm. The moments at home were a blur of activity, packing lunches for the next day, deciphering her son's math homework, and staring at the daunting pile of bills on the kitchen table. Each envelope felt like a judgment, a constant reminder of how thin the ice was beneath their feet. The vibrant colors of her own youth seemed like a distant memory. Now, life felt gray, muted, a long, monotonous corridor with no windows. She prayed sometimes, but her prayers felt like paper boats launched into a vast, indifferent ocean. They were quiet, hesitant whispers in the dark, letters addressed to a God she remembered from her grandmother's stories, a God she wasn't sure was still listening. Was anyone at that address? Or was she just talking to herself, another symptom of her crushing loneliness? The silence that answered her was heavy, and it often left her feeling more hollow than before. Then came the night the storm broke, not outside, but within her. Her son, Marco, had been sick for days, his small body burning with a fever that refused to break. The doctor's words echoed in her mind. Just keep him comfortable. But comfort was a luxury she couldn't afford. As the city slept, Maria sat by his bed, watching the shallow rise and fall of his chest. Suddenly, the weight of it all, the jobs, the bills, his fever, the profound, suffocating loneliness, crashed down on her. A wave of pure panic seized her. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. The air grew thick, impossible to breathe. She felt the walls of the small room closing in, and a terrifying thought screamed in her mind. I'm failing. I can't do this. She felt utterly, terrifyingly helpless. In that moment of complete surrender, when she had nothing left, she slid from the chair to her knees. The formal, uncertain prayers of the past vanished, replaced by a raw, desperate cry from the depths of her soul. Tears streamed down her face as she choked out the words, not to a distant concept, but to a person she desperately needed to be real.
Jesus, please, I can't do this alone. I have nothing left. I'm so scared. Please be with us. Please help my son. Please just help me.
And then something shifted. It wasn't a sound. It wasn't a booming voice from the heavens. It was a stillness. A profound, palpable peace that settled over the room, quieting the frantic rhythm of her heart. A gentle warmth spread through her, chasing away the icy grip of fear. It was a presence so real, so tangible, it felt as if a pair of strong, loving arms were wrapped around her, holding her up. She wasn't just kneeling on the floor of her small apartment anymore. She was being held, secure, safe. The crushing weight on her shoulders lifted, and for the first time in years, she could breathe. She stayed there for a long time, soaking in the quiet miracle. Later, when she rose, she placed her hand on Marco's forehead. The fire was gone. The fever had broken. A wave of relief washed over her, but she knew something far more significant had happened that night. Her son's body was on the mend, but her own heart, bruised and broken by years of struggle, had truly begun to heal. The deep wound of loneliness and despair had been touched by grace. From that night on, everything changed. Prayer was no longer a formal plea sent into the void. It became a conversation. She began talking to Jesus like a constant companion, a trusted friend. While washing dishes, she'd whisper, "Thank you for this food, Lord. Help me stretch it through the week." On the bus, watching the city lights streak by, she'd say, "You see all these people, Jesus? I bet they have worries too. Be with them." Before sleep, instead of anxieties, she would list gratitudes. The worry didn't magically vanish. The bills still arrived, and the jobs were still tiring. But the burden was no longer hers to carry alone. It was shared. The fear that had consumed her for so long was replaced by a quiet confidence, a foundational trust that she was seen, known, and loved. Life was still hard. There was no denying that. But it was no longer gray. That suffocating monochrome existence had been flooded with the color of hope. It was in the warmth of her son's hug, the taste of their simple meals, the beauty of a sunrise she now noticed on her way to work. She had found a peace that didn't depend on her circumstances, but on a presence that walked with her through them. Her smile was genuine now. Her laughter came more easily. She was still Maria, a single mother working 2 jobs, but she was no longer defined by her struggle. She was defined by the love that had found her in the storm.
Maria's story is a beautiful testament to a profound truth. So often, we feel we must be strong, that we must carry our burdens in silence. We send up prayers and wonder if they ever reach their destination. But God is not distant. He is not waiting for you to have it all together. He meets you right where you are, in your panic, in your exhaustion, in your despair. In every storm of life, a whisper of peace can find you. You only need to be still enough to hear it and open enough to receive it. He is waiting to hold you, just as he held Maria. Jesus is Lord. Comments, please.
Isn't it amazing? Sarah, David, Maria, 3 different lives, 3 struggles. Each found a personal, life-changing connection to the divine. Not in grand cathedrals or debates, but in ordinary places. We often meet grace when we are broken, open, willing to surrender. These experiences are not for a select few. They're an open invitation. Your aha moment will be uniquely yours. Maybe a slow dawning of peace, love, clarity. After a long struggle, light breaking through. These testimonies whisper to the part of you seeking more. You're not alone. Look for the sacred in the ordinary, the miracle in the mundane.
Be open, be curious, listen to others and the whispers of your own soul.